Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Mo and I'm a Greek fashion photographer based in Germany, Reutlingen. And today I want to talk to you about the Nikon Zf. And just a quick review, not a technical one. I think there are so many reviews out there that are talking about all the technical specs that I don't have to do the same again. So this is from a Leica and Fujifilm shooter's perspective, and there are a few things I really loved about this camera and a few things I really hate. I really dislike about this one. And yeah, first things first, let me tell you a little story. I was talking to a photography friend of mine, and we were talking about cameras we have used in the past and which ones we really liked, which ones we wish we could have again. And one of my all-time favorites is the Canon AT1. Not the AE1, the AT1, the full manual model of the Canon A series. And this particular camera accompanied me for about, 3 or 4 years, and it's one of my favorite film cameras. And I said to my friend, well, mate, I wish Canon would build a digital version of the Canon AT1 that looks the same, that feels the same, and most important, where I can adapt my vintage FD lenses on it. Because to my eye, except for the original Leica and Voigtländer glass for the Leica M system, the best vintage lenses you can get are the Canon FD ones. But that's just my personal choice, yeah? So a few days later, where we were still talking about this camera, Nikon announced the new ZF. And I was shocked. I was in love. This is my all-time dream camera. And I was expecting so much when I first saw it, and the first reviews popped up and everyone was talking about how great this camera feels and how great it is. And I waited a few months, and the last time I thought about switching to another system from Leica, because Leica is great, but Leica is extremely expensive, and I have to admit I own a few. It's not about Leica today. Well, I purchased the Nikon Zf, and after my Canon R about 4 years ago, it is the first digital camera I bought new. And it was so promising. It has a full frame sensor with, I don't know exactly how much, but it doesn't matter. It's about 24-ish megapixel. It's more than enough. I mean, I shot most of my stuff on my Leica M8, even the paid stuff, and this one. And this is has about 10 megapixels or something, and it's enough. And for my professional work, I still use my Fuji GFX system. I use the 50R and 50S, and I'm totally fine with that. But I wanted a camera that looks cool, that I can take anywhere, and where I can adapt my collection of vintage Canon FD lenses. So the Nikon Zf it is. And yeah, when I first got the camera, I bought it with the 40mm f2 lens. I have to be honest, I was very disappointed. Starting from the lens is so light and feels so plasticky. It feels almost exactly like the old Canon EF 50mm 1.8. and it looks great. It's the SE version, the special edition version that is made to look like the vintage Nikon, I don't know how they're called, lenses. And it looks great. That's totally fine. And it feels okay on the camera. But the first thing I immediately missed was an aperture ring. Like I said, I'm used to Leica and I'm used to Fujifilm, and to my eye, Fujifilm perfected the vintage feel and tactile experience of these cameras combined with modern features. So on most Fujifilms, you have an A setting, the aperture, on the shutter speed and on the ISO. Nikon chose a different path. They implemented the standard PASM mode here, and you can still switch like a normal standard DSLR from mode to mode. And there is a fully auto mode. Honestly, I never tried. But it's kind of strange. Well, this shouldn't be a bad thing, because maybe it's just me that I'm not used to use Nikon cameras. It's my first Nikon I ever had in my hand. And but there's one thing. Coming from Fujifilm and coming from Leica, and I know that Leica is extremely expensive and they're extremely well made, and it's the German quality, and they're heavy and made out of brass and so on. Yeah? But also the Fujifilm, they feel a lot more better built than this. The top plate is made of magnesium, if I'm right. I'm not sure, but this is some kind of metal. But it feels like plastic. It feels very plasticky. The bottom plate is plastic, and it feels extremely cheap. Okay, to be honest, no one is taking a camera every day and making these things and look. No one does that. That's okay. But you feel it. You feel it. And the camera is very light. It's about 700 something grams. It's okay. But it could be heavier and better built to my eye. The best thing about the ZF are the top dials. They are perfect. This is so satisfying to use those dials. They sound great, they feel great. They're made out of brass, so if you keep your ZF for a while and use it for a while, they will probably start brassing and look like the vintage Leicas, and that's a very great thing. But if you use your ZF and the dials start brassing, but the body doesn't, I don't know. Well, that's about the quality. Like I said, the lens feels plasticky, but the picture quality is quite great. The autofocus is extremely fast, it's extremely reliable, and as far as I have tested it, it just works amazing. But, again, another but, due to the lack of the aperture ring, it doesn't feel that analog as you would have expected from a camera that looks like this. Yeah? Another great thing I really liked is the back screen. I partially liked, because you can close it, so there is no screen. You can open it, you can move it like that, so you can use the screen. I personally never use the back screen. I hardly review my photos, but if you look at the camera this way, it looks okay, but don't turn it around. It looks like there wasn't a screen and they adapted a screen to it. It doesn't feel great. There's this little step over here. It's just not that well made. Another thing I noticed, when I'm holding the camera like this and push it too far, I can move the screen. Okay, it's just about a few millimeters, yeah? But still, it doesn't feel that solid. And yeah, the viewfinder is absolutely great. It's awesome. It's one of the greatest and fastest EVFs I've ever seen. I really fell in love with that. The picture output, there is a new, I can't remember how they're called in the Nikon ecosystem, like a film picture style, like a picture style on the on the Canon world, or a film simulation in the Fuji Tonk. There is this profile called Rich Tone Portrait, and it looks amazing. Color-wise, this camera is absolutely fantastic. It delivers. It just delivers. And if you are someone that just want to shoot JPEG, you can set this camera up to make great, very great, awesome JPEGs. Another thing I really liked is the switch here, where I can switch from video to photo and to black and white. And I can dial in a second profile for my black and white work. So if I move over the switch, I see everything in black and white, and I capture my photos in black and white, which is amazing. Because even if you change your mind afterwards and want to change your black and white images to colored ones, you can still do it, because the RAW has all the information you need. And this is an amazing feature. And I own the Leica M9 monochrome, and I don't know, I somehow expected the Nikon Zf to be my replacement for the M9 monochrome, and to be honest, for my M10P. Well, I sold my M10P to other things, but this will never replace a real monochrome camera. Just sad. The ZF has a ton of functions a simple photographer or an analog photographer like me doesn't need. It has IBIS. I can't remember exactly how many f-stops of image stabilization you got, but it's a lot. It's a very creative tool. You can take very special captures with it, handheld, so you maybe can capture street and the cars are still moving, and you got that. Could be great. I tried. I have to be honest. It's nothing I really need. It's just may sound strange to most of you, but it's just too easy. There is something about having a camera and having to find a way to stabilize it. And if you can't take your photo handheld, then you have to find a way to stabilize your camera and somehow figure out how to take this picture. And this picture will be much more worth to you than a picture taken the easy way. Well, I asked myself for whom this camera is the right one. And I have to be very honest, I don't know. If you really want an analog experience, you're probably better with Fujifilm. Okay, these are not full-frame cameras and I know. But you can work around with, for instance, a speed boost, a focal reducer. So you can use your vintage lenses on a full-frame Fujifilm. It works. Let me show you something. I bought an adapter. So my favorite lens from the Canon FD lineup is the 50mm f1.2L lens with a red ring. It's by far one of the best vintage lenses ever built. And I have this Canon FD to Nikon Zf adapter, to Nikon Z. It looks great, feels fine, and there is a particular function of the ZF that is really amazing. Even though your lens doesn't really connect to the camera, it doesn't. There are no wires. There is no data. Yeah? But still, it recognizes the eye, and with a few simple tricks, you frame your shot, you focus as good as you can, and it immediately recognizes the eye, and you can zoom directly into the eye, focus, and take a picture. This is something that is completely different to the normal way you shoot with those lenses, where you have just one focus point, you zoom in, focus, recompose, shot. This is focus, no, this is compose, focus, shot. It's a different workflow, but it works. Well, as you see, it looks amazing, it feels okay, but it's so front heavy because the camera is so light that it's not really a pleasure shooting with vintage lenses on the ZF. Another thing is the lack of a grip. Well, like I said, I'm a Leica shooter, and Leicas don't have that grip either. And you don't need that. But most of the times, you have very, very small lenses on a Leica. And the Leicas are a lot heavier, or at least feel a lot heavier than the ZF. And with a simple thumb grip, it's so amazing to hold this camera in the hand, while this one is just unbalanced. Another thing that disappointed me a lot is the lens lineup from Nikon. Technically, there might be a few very, very great lenses, sure. But first, they don't have an aperture ring. So using those lenses on a camera like that doesn't make sense to me. Another thing is, these lenses are, I don't know why, but the Nikon Z lenses are extremely big. They're huge compared to the for instance, the Canon RF lenses. They're just huge. I don't know why. And an even bigger lens and heavier lens like this on that body, no. It might work out on the other Z cameras, I don't know. Even though I don't even know how they're called. I have to confess, I'm not a Nikon fanboy, I'm sorry. But I wanted this so much that, well, I took a lot of photos with it, I tried a lot. The colors are great, the photos are great, but the usability and the overall quality just don't speak to me. Sadly, I will give it back. I will get my money back. Thankfully I can. And well, I tried, but it's just not a camera for me. It's just not my camera. Maybe it's for you. It depends on what you would like to shoot, and if you really like this retro design and if it's important to you. It is one of the greatest looking cameras you can get, period. It looks exactly like an old Nikon FM or a Canon A1 or any 70-ish, 70s range SLR, sorry. It might be the camera for you. There are two, at least I've seen two, special edition lenses. It's the 40mm 1.2 and the 28mm, I don't know what aperture it has, that look like that match the camera from a design perspective and yeah, perform right away great on this camera. And I think if you've got a kit with this camera only, without a grip, the 40mm and the 28mm, you have all you need for a very solid, nice travel camera with reliable autofocus. One thing I really miss on my Leicas, which the ZF has, is the ability to change modes and, for instance here, switch to P mode and give the camera to someone and say, hey, please take a picture of me. This is something great, but it's, to me, and as a professional photographer, it's just, I'm very sorry, it's not a professional camera. Feature-wise, yes, if you are already into the Nikon Z system and want something cooler, it might be a camera for you, but not for me. Well, this was my Canon ZF review. I hope you like it. Please subscribe for upcoming videos, and until next time, goodbye.